Hi everybody. We're very pleased to welcome Faith Trimel, who's the director of this film, and I think you did lots of other things as well. I mean, apart from being the...
I wrote it, I directed it. I'm one of those faces up there. Thank you. What I like to do, because I had a friend who gave me some advice, she's like, there's a lot of issues in this film, just give the audience a second to process it, maybe talk a little bit about your experience. So I will just very briefly, and then I'll open it up to any questions. So Family, as you know, is a US-based film. I shot this film in Los Angeles, California. It incorporated 57 plus actors, 20 plus locations. It's 6 leads, as you can well see. And we shot this 12 consecutive days. We took a 6-day on, 1 day off, 6-day on thing, and then we went on a hiatus for a month, and then we came back and we resumed shooting. And you know, it was just, the casting happened in one marathon week. I took 3 days, which I cast, oh God. I took 3 days, and I got the bulk of the actors by getting inquiries, and then I streamlined it, and by a week later, I'd already had all of the casting done for the most part, and then just picked up some other people along the way. So, I mean, this film is really rich with a lot of issues, and that's why I'm just so excited that this is something that I've done, because, you know, we deal with it. I just wanted to show the various different issues that, you know, that women would deal with in terms of coming out. So, you know, everyone has a different story. Everyone's at their level of outedness. So I actually, you know, definitely tried to show the range of races or whatever as best I could, you know. You know, just really what I want with this film is to really not to say, and I think I was telling someone this earlier, the film doesn't hold the position that one should come out. The film holds the position that based on your circumstance and what you want in your relationship, it would behoove you, if you know that you are putting it in peril, that you do come out. But it does encourage, and the fundamental truth and principle is that when one does take the risk to do it, there may be some issues with it and some pain that comes, but ultimately the sense of joy and peace, being honest about oneself, weighs it all. And that family, be it the biological ones, like some were blessed to have supportive families here and others were not, can be a makeshift one that you create throughout the years by connecting with other lives and opening up and you know, really creating a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood. So, you know, that's one of the things.
In South Africa, that a lot of people come out because there's still a lot of those attacks that's happened there with the one lady who was a lesbian. There's a lot of that still goes on. These people still to death in our country. I think it's very important that people do come out.
It is not, it is little pockets of areas of such violence and angst, particularly in the United States. And I did want to show that by showing the scene. People are often asked, you know, what is that scene where there's just this bashing? And what I wanted to show with that is that there's so many things that women, particularly in my story, have to deal with. Okay, the stressors of just earning their way. That's what Monifa talks about. She was like, what about my shop rent and my mortgage, you know, and having to deal with being in a homophobic environment and really trying to negotiate how she'll be able to keep her peace and allow these women to express themselves and you know, work with them, but eventually she stands her peace. So the movie shows that those are the different agents that press against these women, and added to that is just the issue that there's homophobia and hate crimes and random violence that touches their lives, and that's yet another thing that these women have to address. The reality of your relationship does in fact change, and always, I think, for the better. Or at least it goes through an interesting change where ultimately it'll work its way through to a place where you can be authentically who you are and have someone appreciate you for you, because that's really what Felicia's battle was in the one scene when she's talking about, well, now that your mother tells you she has cancer, you're not going to come out. And Felicia's like, well, what if something happens to my mother and she really never really knows me? So I think the motivation to make the film just kind of came to me in a dream. No, it came to me when I realized that I did want to do like an ensemble piece. My first film was entitled Black Warren and Angel. It was a very intimate romance thriller. It was all the angst and pain of life, and I didn't know where it came from. It was such a sad film, but I knew that that was a thing I needed to do. It was very cathartic, but I also knew that there was something about me that had a nice blend of humor and drama that wanted to shock and be provocative. I think family could have gone a little further, provocative, but you know, I like it where it is right now, and I intend on making this into a series. So,
if any of this was based on personal experience?
Sure. You know, this is just a hodgepodge or an amalgamation of me, like the characters are different parts of me, and then the stories are things I've heard. I'm really like a sponge, so every time I travel, I do, you know, I obviously, it's clear that I'm an extrovert, right? But I do have an introverted part, and so what happens is I always flip it. Eventually, I start becoming the listener, and I gather these stories from all these women because this is the only way I'm going to get to have it, because I'm not a partier anymore. I'm you know, just so busy and consumed with my work, and the only time I get to hear the lives of women and lesbians and people, period, is when I do the festival. So what's really interesting is there was two stories. When I'm going to try to get to this just real quick. When I was in Los Angeles, I showed the film. This woman comes up to me afterwards, and she's like, kind of, I think it's a tinge of critical, because I knew her, and she's one of those who always acts like she doesn't know me, even though we spent time, we ate, broke bread together, we connected, and so I'm like, she's so convinced she doesn't know me that I forget I know her. So anyway, she says that did not feel like there were happier or stories that I could tell that were where lesbians were at a better place, a greater peace. And so I answered, I said, well, you know, I told her, well, comparatively, I have a dream coming out story, but that's not interesting. We don't want to hear a story and sit in a movie theater, everything's all great, no one has a problem, and oh, I love you, and I love you back, you know, and that's no conflict. That's really what makes cinema and drama. So then after the day was over, I was just so overwhelmed because it was so much to do, and then I thought about it. I said, she was the one who told me about how she is a therapist, a practicing therapist, who had a lover who was from the Caribbean, whose family came and stayed on them for 3 months, and her lover completely denounced or denied her. This was the woman who told me this story, and that story stuck with me and came out as Tanya and Shelley. And it's like, I was like, wait a minute, she was the one who gave me one of the storylines, though she criticized the movie as not being, you know, as gay or true or whatever as she'd like it to be. And then there was another woman when I was in Rochester, New York, just driving me someplace. She told me about how it was interesting being in a relationship as a black woman with a Latina woman, and how the conflict in culture, her Catholicism, her family, her roots, the men in her family and all of that really tore at her and ruined their relationship to some extent. And so that became the story of Melanie and Rita and the child, the struggle with the child. Kind of changed a little bit for dramatic effect, so that's really how it happens. So first what it happens is, there's a part of me, I used to really be a serious basketball player. That part is Kim, you know, knowing that I wanted a big career with that before I decided that wasn't for me. And then there's the part of me that is Melody, because I was about to bring a life into the world with an ex that didn't work, and I could only guess that would have been a very similar story to what we had. And then there's also, you know, the ones that are far most removed from me would definitely be Sabrina, but I do have compassion because I have so many friends. I've had friends who are like established and successful, have a beautiful partner, and I had one guy in particular, I mean, the dream life, gorgeous home, gorgeous man, gorgeous everything. His mother passed away, and he's about 36 years old, and we're having this conversation. I'm checking in on him to see if he's okay, and he was just like, I'm sorry to laugh, this is so awful. He says, and just such a very intelligent man, and this doesn't mean he's not intelligent, I just see that he was hurt, you know, and broken kind of in a certain way. He says that he is now unable to make love to his boyfriend because now that his mother is dead, she will be watching him from heaven. And now she sees that he is with this man, and she will be disgusted. I said, first off, honey, I think if your mother she's made her transition, she got other things to worry about than what you're doing, number one. Number two, I don't know how to console you with this, because at a certain point, if you notice, if you stay too long with someone and their angst, it begins to kind of sully you a little bit. Like if you're not going to get a clue after me saying 2 or 3 things, then I don't want that on me, you know what I mean? I don't want like your self-loathing to kind of stick with me too long. I'll try to walk this with you and not laugh at you when you tell me stuff like that. But also try to show some compassion. I don't know how he ever dealt with that, because that was just a big part. It took up such a big part of his life. But I did say, so you mean that you care, not to dismiss the youth in your life, but you're telling me that you couldn't bear that your 11-year-old niece would know that you were gay. So what I'm saying to you is, you're saying you're giving an 11-year-old the power to define you and make decisions about your life. So now, this is my whole little caveat that I always say. It's like a lot of people get shy, and then when it's over, they come up to me and ask me this deep and intense question, and I'm like sleepy or hungry, so no other questions. They get upset with me because I'm like, okay. They ask, so what is the content based on the existentialism crises of, okay, wait.